This is an incredibly rare find for the price. I just picked this up. This is a 1980 Honda XR200. The first year Honda made the XR200. And it's 99% complete. Crazy find. So this was up on Marketplace for 850 bucks. I messaged the guy offering $5. He said there's a lot of other people interested. And I said, well, I'll come right now. I'll give you the full $850 for it. He said, come grab it. It's sold to you. So luckily, I beat out the other competition, the 5 other guys, and got this insanely good deal. So I guess this bike has been sitting in this guy's garage for the past 34 years. You know, just stored in the corner, never touched. He said that his brother bought it in 1984 from the original owner, and then rode it up until 1991. And then his brother parked it for him in his garage. So it's been sitting for the last 34 years untouched. He said it was put away in running condition, so that gives us a little hope. But I mean, this thing is spotless for the year. I mean, check this out. Look at the frame. This is a dirt bike. There's hardly anywhere on this frame. Obviously it's dirty from, you know, being ridden. But once we clean this thing up, it is gonna shine. It is 99% complete, only missing a small piece right here by the chain. So I believe there was a case saver right here. You can see a bolt here and a bolt there where that case saver would be. But side cover's on there. There's a little gouge here, unfortunately, in the cover, but at least the cover's on there. You know, every little piece is there. Like, these things are usually off of it, holding the cables on. The tank is in excellent condition as well. There's a little scratch here on the graphics. But I mean, take a look at the seat. It's got the original bag. This is Honda on it. And this actually has a street legal kit on here. That was very rare. It was an aftermarket option at the time. You've got the tail light, the extremely rare speedometer for these, which these go for over $200 on eBay alone, just for the speedo. And then you've got the very rare headlight. So, I mean, just alone, right here, this section is probably worth $500. And then the tank here is just in really, really good shape for an XR. And then obviously no rips in the seat at all. So, being 99% complete and in this good of condition for an XR200 the first year is extremely rare. I don't think I've seen a cleaner one than this. You guys will be amazed when this thing cleans up. I can just see it underneath all the dirt. It's gonna look really, really good. Yeah, this one's gonna be a really fun bike. So today's goal is to get this one running and driving by the end of the video. So enough talking, let's get this thing off the truck and start digging into it. Man, is that a nice looking bike. Look at the stance on that thing. Little walk around here. Yep, they don't make them like this anymore. Alright, let's get this one in the garage and start taking a look. Alright, we got the bike in the garage. Let's start tearing into it. See what we find here. So first thing we're going to do is check the oil, like always. So dipstick is right down here. And you guys might be asking yourself, why aren't you cleaning it? We're going to clean it at the car wash after this is fixed up. It just makes it easier for me. I have to get all that sand off of here. So somebody obviously did not put this away clean. I'm guessing they didn't know it was going to be their last ride ever on it. Let's see if there's any oil in it. Oh, look how black that is. That definitely needs to be changed. Sat 34 years. That is a long time. There's really nothing on the dipstick here. Oh, there we go. There's a little bit. Look how black. Doesn't smell like gas. That's good. So we need to change that out right away. That looks pretty darn bad, but at least there's a little in there. All right, next thing we're gonna check is the gas tank. I have not opened the gas tank at all yet, so this will be a surprise. Let's see, please don't be rusty. Let's see what we get. Oh yeah, that is awesome. I don't see any rust on that tank. I thought for sure that was gonna be full rust. Check this out. Not a single speck of rust in that gas tank. Holy cow. This is a 1980 bike, a dirt bike, with no rust in the tank. Wow, is that clean. So luckily he drained it before storing it. That helped big time. That saved us a ton of work. Oh, I can't believe that gas tank's spotless. That's amazing. So, gas tank definitely checks out. All right, let's check out what's in the bag back here. You never know. There's a zipper here. All right, what do we have in here? Looks like a couple spark plugs. Cool. Those are brand new. This one's used. So maybe it was fouling plugs at one point. I don't know. Alright, I noticed that the chain is extremely rusty. Let's get that sprayed. I'm hoping that it'll kind of free up. When I was rotating the bike over, it bounced off the sprocket a couple times. You can see the sprocket's really worn down. The front one's not too bad, but the rear one is really, really pointy. Sprocket has definitely seen better days. Gonna douse that with some penetrating oil. Let that sit for a little bit. That's good. All right, let's take a peek underneath the side cover, see what's going on. I'm gonna rip these off. Might get the heat gun out. These little rubber grommets get pretty stiff. A lot of times these covers, those little tabs that push into those rubber grommets, they break right off. So let's get the heat gun out, better safe than sorry. Be around here so we can pull that out without breaking off that tab. See if that worked. Maybe we need the seat off here. Looks like it's coming. There we go. Yeah, these covers are hard to come by, so you don't want these tabs breaking off. All right, underneath that cover was basically nothing. I think underneath the other cover is gonna be the airbox. I would be extremely surprised if there wasn't a mouse in here. It's been sitting in the garage for 34 years, untouched. There's gotta be something living in here. Missing the screw over here. These look like the original hardware on here though. Wow. Nothing living in there. Let's see what the cover looks like. Huh. Look at that though. Got the original air filter in there. Air filter's pretty old. Look at that. Wow. That is just gonna disintegrate in my hands when I touch it. Look at this. Yeah. Yep. But it's kind of cool it was still on there. Yeah, that's just turning to dust. Look at it. Basically just crumbling. So that's obviously bad. Yeah, look at that. But airbox was pretty darn clean. Alright, we're going to put that back on for now. It's labeled top there. So, new air filter added to the list of things we need. Seat looks pretty nice. Not too bad. And not a single rip in the seat. I don't know if that's original or not. Usually they have the Honda on the back, so that might be recovered. But looks pretty good. Alright. So airbox comes up through here. So mice could have gotten through there, actually. Looks like they didn't. Alright, we can see if we can get this gas tank off. Let's try to blow through the gas line here for the breather. See if that's still good here. Yep, breather's working. I always like to check that. That checks out. And then the gas line, we can disconnect it from right here. That's on there pretty good. And then we can get that gas tank off. Taking a look at the gas tank underneath. Lots of dirt, but that should clean up pretty good. Couple areas where metal's coming through. Hopefully that doesn't leak. We'll see. Alright, looking at all the wiring here. You've got the coil here coming down. That's all connected. That looks good. You've got the decompression mechanism going down to the kickstart. We saw that was working before. We've got the clutch here. So you pull on the clutch. That's working. Cool. That's actually pretty smooth. Then the kill switch here. That's going down. That should go right to the coil. Let's see here. Maybe it goes into here, that wiring harness. That looks good. Everything's connected. You've got the carb right in there. That looks good. Even the little rubber piece for that is on here. Wow. crazy. So everything looks like it's there. All right, let's try getting that spark plug out. We'll see if we have spark. All right, so this machine does not work with points. It works with a pickup coil and a CDI. So if we don't have spark, it's most likely the CDI or the pickup coil. And it could also be the stator. Oh man. Oh, that's sticky in there. Let's see what that plug looks like. Whew. It was running good at one point. Look how brown that plug is. It was running perfect at one point. Well, that's a good sign. We are going to lube up this cylinder like crazy. It has to be extremely dry in here after sitting 34 years, so we'll get some Marvel Mystery Oil in there. A little penetrating oil. And make it look a little cocktail of lubrication. Alright, Marvel Mystery Oil just in case those rings are stuck. That in there. Alright, we'll let that sit for just a second before we start turning this thing over. It felt like it had compression when I was there. I only kicked it over one time. But yeah, we'll see. Alright, we're going to put a towel over that. And we're going to kick this thing over very slowly until it feels smooth. There we go. One good thing as well is that the kickstart lever is actually grabbing. A lot of these strip out. Feels pretty smooth. You can see all that came out. Alright, now, moment of truth. Will it have spark? Let's take a look at the boot. Check that out first. Alright, we're going to cut that back. Might take a look in here too, make sure that is all clean. A lot of times the inside of that boot can get really rusty and corroded. That looks really clean in there. Alright, that checks out. We'll cut this back 1/4 inch. Expose that fresh wire here. Perfect. Alright, then we can get the boot back on. Now we should be making good contact with that boot. Alright, here we go. Spark plug going in. Let's see what we get here. Alright, hopefully you guys can see that. Here we go. Please be spark. There we go. Great consistent spark. That's awesome. Alright. Well, we have one of the 3 things we need to fire this thing up. We have spark. Do we have compression? Let's see. Compression should be between 160 and 190 on these machines. That seems pretty high, but we'll see what we get. And that's with the decompression mechanism, which I guess only affects the compression in the first half of the kick, so it shouldn't matter if we have that on while we're kicking this thing over. Alright, let's see what we get here. We're hoping for right in this range right in here. We're going to be doing throttle open. Actually, we can't. The slide is stuck, or the cable is. So this is completely locked up. So this might be a little bit lower than expected. Let's just see what we get. over 100, we should be able to run it. It feels like it has a lot. That's 170 right there. Wow. That has a lot of compression. So plenty of compression. I could see the coil sparking right here though. That was kind of weird. Let's see if it does it again. I saw sparking at the coil. I don't like that. Oh no. I think that coil's cracked right there. Check this out. This is not good. See that? Sparking at the coil. If you look in here, it looks like that coil is slightly cracked. Wonder if we can fix that. That might be a problem later on. So that is not good, but compression checks out at 170. So that's perfect. All right, we have good spark, we have compression, but is it sparking at the right time? Let's check timing, and then we're gonna check the valve clearance as well. So let's get these caps off. Here's the intake valve cap, and then the exhaust valve cap there. Looks like 24 millimeter. Pop those free. There we go. Like that. This one's a little trickier to get to. Hopefully we can. I don't know if I can get in there. The frame's kind of in the way. Let's see. I got that pop free. Always like to strip out, usually, so luckily we didn't. Alright, caps are off. We've got a cap here and a cap here. This is the cap for the rotating the crank. This is the window for the flywheel. That one's on there pretty tight. That one came free. Got a little O-ring on there. There's one more here. These are usually a little tighter. There we go. Those O-rings get hardened up in there and then they don't like to twist. Up here, this is where the pickup coil comes in. And there's going to be a thing that rotates around and activates that pickup coil. And we know that's working because we have a good spark. Let's see what that looks like here. So you guys will see as I rotate over the engine, this spins. And here's the pickup coil here. And as it spins, it triggers that pickup coil. And actually, you can line up the timing mark here with that. And it should be there at top dead center. That's how you know it's timed up correctly as well. But this plate actually comes off, and there's a sprocket behind there, and you can check the timing. But I think we might just do it with this. It should be fine. Unless that moved, which most likely it didn't. Otherwise you have to take out the whole valve cover, and that's kind of a pain. So we'll just check that quick. So coming down below, we're going to rotate this engine over. And as you can see up here, it's rotating. We're gonna look in the little window here until we see the T. I believe it's a T. We'll have to see. There's the T. And you want to be on the compression stroke right now. There's no clearance between the valve and the rocker. So we are not on the compression stroke. You can also take your finger and hold it over the spark plug hole and see when there's compression. I'm going to check for the T again. So let's see if we can see the T in here. Kind of tricky to see. There it is right there. You can see the T with the line. Zoom in a little bit closer there. There we go. And you line that up with the notch right there on the case. See that? So that's lined up. So the T is lined up, and coming up here, you can see there's a line here and a line here. So you can see that that line's just like a millimeter off. That's because that is the fire mark. That's when the bike actually fires. So that is lined up when the F mark down here is lined up. And that's just a little over from the T. That's why you see it's not lined up perfectly. You move it over to the F mark and it lines up perfectly. So that looks all good to go. So ignition timing is spot on right there. And then the valves, you can see the clearance there. Should be able to hear it. Kind of hear it clicking like that. So those are open. So there is clearance between the valve and the rocker. Actually, the intake feels tight. I don't feel any clearance in there. So that one needs to be adjusted. Yeah, I don't feel any clearance at all. So intake is definitely tight. Exhaust, you can clearly hear. An intake. Can't hear anything. And the intake clearance for this bike should be 0.02 of an inch. The exhaust should be 0.03 of an inch. Check the exhaust valve first. There we go. Perfect. Just slides in. So exhaust clearance is perfect. Let's check the intake. Intake should be at 0.02 of an inch. This one definitely feels tight to me. I'm surprised we got that good of compression. Let's see where we're at. Yeah, that doesn't fit in there at all. So I'm guessing this is right at 0. So let's get that adjusted. Oh yeah. Alright, that broke free. You can see the nut spinning now. Nut is loose on there. Now we just have to loosen up a bolt here. Yeah, that was tight. That doesn't even want to move. There we go. So now you should be able to hear it. See that? So that wasn't doing that before. Now we can get our feeler gauge in there. And we can tighten this down. Alright, so now we'll tighten that down until it just grabs the feeler gauge. You can see it's moving in and out. Let's see if it still goes in and out. Yep, perfect. You can hear it. Hear that? So there's good clearance there now. So that one is all set. Alright, intake and exhaust valves are now perfect. We now have clearance on the intake. We just adjusted that. We will check the timing if this bike doesn't fire up, but right now the ignition timing looked good. Alright, so we have good spark, we have compression, and the valves are adjusted and ignition timing is spot on. Let's start working on the carb. So the carb is kind of buried in the frame here. We're going to take off the nut here, and there's one on the other side as well. Those are 10mm nuts. And then it looks like we can probably take the air box off of here. There's a 10mm here and one on the other side we can take off. So let's start doing that. Which one it is. All right, first nut coming off. And going to the other side. Let's get that one off. Coming out. I think that whole thing can come out of here. I think it's just zip tied on. Nope. Alright, now the airbox is loose in here. There's a clamp holding it to the carb. I don't want that going into the intake there. It's either the throttle cable or the slide. Let's see. It's the slide. So we can't take that off. It's gonna make it hard to get the carb off. Because you really can't take the carb out through here. It can come out through here. There we go. Yeah, that's on there pretty tight. Boots off. Alright, looks like the choke was on. Choke is stuck too. That's not good. How did we get to the slide then to loosen that up? There we go. Alright, I'm gonna put some penetrating oil down there. Oh, it's coming. I don't want to break it. Oh, it's slowly coming. It is on there. see all the old sticky gas on there. So carb is free finally. Let's see if the cable works. Oh yeah, cable works perfect. All right, let's see how bad this carb is. So it's been sitting for 34 years. I think there was gas left in it. Let's see. This could be really, really bad. It's gunked up on the outside. Wow. I have a feeling it's going to need the ultrasonic cleaner for this one. Here we go. Let's see. Yeah, there's gas in it. Oh boy. Ooh. Not looking too good. Yeah, she's a little rough in there. Let's see. As long as it's not corroded. Man, that's a thick layer of gunk on there. Wow. I think we're gonna have to let that one sit for a while. Look at that thick layer down there. Yeah. You can definitely tell it's been sitting for a long, long time. So, not the greatest looking carb. Oh, look at the main jet. Holy. It's pretty crunchy in there. Emulsion tube and the main jet coming out. Take a look at that. Completely plugged up. Yeah, that's pretty gross. Is that pin gonna come out for the float? No. No, it won't. And then the needle is completely stuck in there. You can see it's not moving up and down. So here's the fuel screw right here. Assuming it turns out, we are, oh, that's sticky. 1, 2, 2 1/4. Get that out of there. There's a spring. This way. Hopefully it will come without breaking anything. There we go. Okay. See, it's starting to come. To reshape that a little bit. That barely came out. You can see the needle is completely stuck in there. Float seems okay. So we're going to take that piece off. I'm going to try to get that needle out. Actually, you know what? We might let that sit with the needle in it. I want to wreck that needle by trying to pry that out. So everything else looks pretty decent. Choke is working okay. I think once we get that spring loosened up, that'll start to work a lot better. That is going to need a heavy soaking in the ultrasonic cleaner. Using a little bit of a simple green. Pour a bunch in there. Alright, carb is out of the ultrasonic cleaner. Looking pretty much perfect. Looks really good. Here's the bowl. So that turned out pretty nice. All the jets are cleaned out. So we can get this carb all reassembled and back on the bike. Alright, carb is all back together. Looking pretty good. Got the choke working. And then we got the slide area cleaned out here with some sandpaper. So let's reinstall that. All right, get your slide in here. Let's see how nice that slides in. Alright, let's check out this petcock next. Let's take this off. The tank looked great, so I'm hoping the petcock looks just as good. I think it will. Yeah, that looks pretty darn clean. Seems like it's working. We're gonna let that sit in the ultrasonic cleaner for a little bit, get all that sand off, and we'll reinstall it. Alright, petcock is all cleaned up. Looking good, we can reinstall that. Alright, getting some new fuel line on here. So that's going to wrap down and around. We'll cut it right there. Right about here should be enough, because we'll add a filter too. I'll tuck that down there. Alright, this coil has a crack in it. Let's take that off and try to repair that. I don't know if it can be repaired. We will see. Oh yeah, look how big that crack is in there. It goes all the way across there. Not good. Oh, right here too. Oh, that is really bad. I wonder how that cracked. So we're gonna clean this coil off and try to put some glue in between the cracks, see if we can repair that. Using some of this epoxy. Put that on here. Mix that up. Maybe we can fill these cracks in here. This goes all the way around here. All right, while we're letting this coil dry, let's do a quick oil change in this thing. The oil looked horrible. So the oil drain plug is right here. Let's get that out. Looks like there's gonna be a spring and a filter, I'm guessing, in that cap. So 24 millimeter. All right, let's see what's in here. Here's the spring. Filter's coming with it. There we go. Alright. So far, no metal chunks. There's the filter and the spring. Extremely black. But we'll let that drain out and we'll check that out for metal chunks. So far, it's looking pretty good. Oh, good news, the oil is just really black. There wasn't a whole lot in there either. So I'm thinking maybe this bike was burning oil. We'll see. But yeah, it's just really black. No metal chunks or anything, so that's good. Let's get some fresh oil going in the engine. All right, oil capacity for a 1980 XR200 is going to be about 1 quart of oil. So let's get that going. We've got 10W40 here. Alright, holding the bike level here. Alright, get your dipstick in. We're not going to screw it in. Alright, and we are perfect. Alright, coil is all dry. Let's get that back on. Let's see, I think it was like that. Alright, that looks good. Hopefully that fixes our problem. Alright, let's hook up our plug. We're going to see if this is still arcing across there. Hopefully it's not. There. Let's see what happens. Nope. Doesn't look like it's doing it. And it's still sparking at the plug. Spark still looks good, so we'll see. We're gonna get the plug back in. Alright, setting up this filter here. Let's see. Arrow going that way. So this is going to go right here. And that's kind of a sharp bend, so we're just going to put another line here. And then here. That should be fine. I might have this come out. Filter in there. Gas line's on, looking good. All right, we've got gas in the tank. Let's see if it's going down. Let's see, reserve is right here. Oh yeah, gas is flowing through the filter. It's filling up. See if it leaks out of the carb. So far, so good. All right, looks like the gas stopped. Gas is not leaking. All right, so I think we can attempt to fire this thing up. Well, we've got fresh fuel in it, got great spark, great compression. Valves were adjusted to the correct clearance, and yeah, this thing's all good to go. So this is going to be the first start attempt in over 34 years. Let's see what happens. Will she fire up? I'm hoping that coil doesn't have any more issues. Let's see what happens here. Here we go. Choke it. Gas on. All right. Fired up for the first time in 34 years. Holy cow. Wow, wow, wow. Check that out. Even idling. That's an aftermarket exhaust on there. That's why it's so loud. She is smoking quite a bit right now. That might be the oil I put down the cylinder. Got no knocking from the top end. Let's see. That sounds awesome. Can't believe she fired up. All right, we just have to adjust the idle a little bit. See if we can get this thing to idle a little bit better. There we go. That's pretty smooth. That sounds really good. smoking quite a bit though yet. Let's see if this thing stops smoking. Man, is that a nice looking bike. Is the light working? Doesn't look like it. I don't know how you turn the light on. Let's see. Doesn't look like the lights are working. Tail light? I think the tail light was working. I'm not seeing anything. Yeah, I don't think the lights are working. Oh yeah, they are. Look at that. Just really dim. See if you rev it. Yeah, it gets a little bit brighter. So lights are working. Cool. Can't believe those are working too. She's still smoking quite a bit though. Unless there's a ton of carbon in that pipe, I think we might have a problem with the rings. But it sounds really good. Idling great. Well, I'd say she's pretty dialed in right now. Revs out completely, idles perfectly. Not a single drop of anything from the engine. So the engine's really nice and tight. Carb isn't leaking at all. Yeah, I'd say she's good to go. So what we're gonna do is try to pump up the tires and then take this thing for the first ride. This will be the first ride in 34 years. This should be pretty fun. Alright, these tires are pretty flat. Let's see if they hold any air. So far. Alright, that's holding. Tire's pretty dry rotted. So, what are the chances that the clutch plates aren't disintegrated? We're gonna go find out. Let's see if this thing moves. This thing is running pretty good. For a bike that's been sitting for 34 years, I can't believe it. It's starting first kick, has really good power, shifts through all the gears perfectly. Both brakes work, both lights work. I mean, it's running perfect. It still smokes, so we might have to do a new piston and rings in there and valve seals, but other than that, it is not bad. So, you know, obviously the sprocket needs to be changed, the rear one. That doesn't look too good there either. But yeah, I mean, other than that, you know, other than the basics, it is good to go. This thing is really fun. So this is a 6-speed, and you can get going fast on this thing. Probably goes about 60 miles an hour. So, really quick bike for a 200. And it handles pretty good, you know, not horrible. Alright, she cleaned up pretty good. Obviously we need to go through it and clean it all really well, but that was just a quick pressure wash and most of the dirt came off. But check out that tank. Looks pretty darn clean. All the plastics are nice. The frame is really nice. And that's all original paint. Seat is perfect. Side cover is perfect on this side. So it's gonna look really nice once we shine it all up. But yeah, this one turned out great. And I definitely think it was worth the 850 bucks I paid for it. So we got a crazy good deal on this bike. And I think it took me like 5 hours to get this one up and running. And we did it in one day, so not too bad. Well, that wraps up the video on the 1980 Honda XR200. Hope you guys enjoyed picking this thing up for 850 bucks, diagnosing it, getting it to run, and then taking it for the first ride in 34 years. Definitely feels good to save this one, and I'll be adding this one to my collection. So thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for subscribing. Stay tuned for next video, and until next time, we are out.